So, according to the DOJ, there has been yet another plot to end President-elect Trump. Yeah, it's another data intensive wire, I guess. It's another, nah, not daily, like sort of weekly/monthly, right? And it's every couple of weeks we get one. Anyway, this one they accuse the Iranian regime to be, at fault for. I honestly see a lot of skepticism on social media. Basically, the three-letter agencies are considered almost as sinister as the Iranian regime at this point by the people on the American right that I can see on the internet, which, is a very dire indictment of just how low the trust in you has fallen. Hopefully Trump will be able to get in and get his people in, bring us some transparency, fire some people who desperately need to be fired, and we'll be able to have less of a mess in that regard. So, the Justice Department on Friday announced federal charges in a thwarted Iranian plot to end Donald Trump before the presidential election. According to court documents, Iranian officials asked Farhad Shakeri, 51, in September to focus on surveilling and ultimately ending Trump. Shakeri is still at large in Iran, the Justice Department said. Just so that you understand, he was not specifically supposed to physically do it. He is accused of being a sort of middleman, connecting with US criminals, and he is supposed to sort of relay the orders of the Iranian regime and the money, etc., to them. So he has a network of business associates, which are, criminals of all sorts, and he basically tells them who to target and pays them. Anyway, this is a newly disclosed plot and marks yet another alleged attempt on Trump's life by the Iranian regime. Prosecutors allege Shakeri, who participated in recorded conversation with law enforcement, was originally tasked by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps to carry out other endings against US and Israeli citizens inside the US. But IRGC officials told Shakeri on October 7 to focus only on Trump, court documents say, and that he had 7 days to formulate a plan to end him. Shakeri, who is an Afghan national residing in Tehran, told investigators that if he was unable to come up with a plan in that time frame, the IRGC would wait until after the presidential election to move forward, as they believed Trump would lose. Yeah, considering Trump won literally everything, the House, I think, the Senate definitely, the national, the Electoral College, the popular vote, I believe the governors as well. It's just a sweeping indictment of the Democrats and apparently of the Iranians, considering they believed that he's going to lose. I guess it's not just Democrats who were out of touch. So, 2 other individuals charged on Friday, Carliza Rivera and Jonathan Lodeholt, who are American citizens, were arrested in New York and are accused of helping the Iranian government surveil a separate US citizen of Iranian origin. They made their initial appearance in court on Thursday, the Justice Department said, and are being detained pending trial. Attorney General Mary Garland and FBI Director Christopher Wray, in statements released Friday, denounced the continued threats from the Iranian government against individuals in the United States. Quote, "There are few actors in the world that pose as grave a threat to the national security of the United States as does Iran. The Justice Department has charged an asset of the Iranian regime, who was tasked by their regime to direct a network of criminal associates to further Iran's assassination plots against its targets, including President-elect Donald Trump. Iran has categorically dismissed the Justice Department's allegation. The foreign ministry, posting on social media platform X on Saturday, described the claims as completely baseless and rejected, adding that similar accusations have been made in the past, which Iran has firmly denied and proven false. The claims amount to a malicious conspiracy aimed at further complicating the issues between the US and Iran, the ministry said. Yeah, I'm not sure if they actually would try to end Trump because the backlash would obviously wipe them off the map, but for other things, I definitely think they are lying. Let's be honest, they have been funding all sorts of politically and religiously motivated attacks on individuals and groups for a very long time. It's documented. They are fomenting all sorts of, tyranny and, let's say, zealotry and violence across the Middle East and the world. The Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, all sorts of bad actors, the kind of people who, let's say, would destroy the sort of monuments of times past because they weren't Islamic enough. I definitely am not a fan of this Iranian regime. I'm not sure they're stupid enough to try and end Trump, because once again, the backlash would be enormous and they wouldn't be able to take it. But for a lot of other things, I definitely do believe the worst of them. I guess it's natural. You can't really live in Israel without believing the worst of them, considering it's almost a rite of passage for Iranian officials to threaten to, destroy the Zionist entity. They do it pretty much every Friday. It's just one of the things they do. And again, I'm not at all hating the Iranian people. So I've talked to some of them on the internet. They're nice. I have family roots in Iran. From Middle Eastern Jewish stock. But let's face it, the current regime is garbage. And if you talk to people from there, they'll tell you the same. Anyway, so essentially the US government repeatedly raised concerns that Iran may try to retaliate for a 2020 US drone strike that ended General Qasem Soleimani, a top general in the IRGC, by trying to end Trump, who ordered the strike, or his former advisors. I'm not sure how credible that is. He can't be the first US president to order a strike on Iranian targets. Nor will he be the last, let's be honest. Unless, of course, this regime actually falls. So, in a series of 5 interviews with the FBI, Shakeri said that he met a senior member of the IRGC through his work in the Iranian oil and fuel businesses. I'm sorry, this guy gave 5 interviews to the FBI despite the fact that he's still in Iran? What kind of... is he like an asset or something? If he sold out the Iranian regime, he wouldn't be safe in Iran, right? But if he was an asset trying to, invent dirt on them, he wouldn't be safe there either. So I'm not sure what's going on here. Did he give the interviews before and then run to Iran? If so, then he might actually be guilty. I don't know. It's just very bewildering. If they actually got him to be interviewed for these crimes, then why did they let him leave the country? How come he's in Iran right now? Unless they interviewed him there. It's just none of it makes any sense to me. So anyway, when the official learned Shakeri had previously lived in New York, he asked for help investigating individuals in the United States. This is an Iranian official. Shakeri said he met with the official more than a dozen times in meetings at different restaurants. According to court documents, Shakeri relied on networks of criminal associates he met during his time in New York's prison system to supply Iranian officials with operatives in the US and to help run surveillance and plot endings on their behalf. So far, I would actually believe the accusations against Iran on this spot. I know there were a couple of sort of Iranian dissidents, or like in general, dissidents to the sort of very extreme and fanatical version of Islam that, promotes violence, that were ended in Europe and the US by, fellow Muslims that didn't appreciate them talking against the narrative. So there's also been all sorts of attacks against, how to put it, religious targets. There's an absolute ton of churches that are, attacked and burned all the time, and the mainstream media doesn't talk about it at all. And there's also synagogues and, Jewish schools and such. So it's not unbelievable that Iran was plotting something. I just honestly am not sure they'd be dumb enough to go after Trump. That's all. I guess that's the sort of reason that a lot of people are very, very wary. That and the fact that there's no credibility whatsoever to the 3-letter agencies of the United States. Especially after all the messes they've caused already. You remember them getting everyone into a war in Iraq over WMDs that were never there. Basically demolishing the country, breaking the sort of mutual deadlock that Iraq and Iran had, freeing Iran to essentially become the empire of evil that it is, funding, politically and religiously motivated violence across the globe. It's like beforehand they didn't do that because they were too busy fighting Iraq for supremacy over the region. All of the refugees, the Muslim refugees that are coming over to Europe, they didn't start doing it until after their countries were messed up. And their countries were messed up by who? By the sort of Bush regimes, the Obama regime. Essentially the 3-letter agencies caused it all, or were instrumental in it all. So they have zero credibility. Not to mention the things they do on US soil. Do you remember the plot to kidnap a US governor that essentially turned out to be almost wholly created and funded by the three-letter agencies, with barely any input from the so-called masterminds? Essentially, the few people they managed to get to go along with it very reluctantly by trying to tempt them with money and incite them, and were apparently some no-good crooks that had no chance of pulling it off whatsoever. So I think the Babylon Bee has an excellent skit on it, where basically they all try to arrest everyone else there, and only to find out that in fact everybody there is an FBI agent. So yeah, they have zero credibility in my mind, and in the mind of most Americans, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing on the, social medias. Essentially, Shakeri was paying criminal associates like his two co-conspirators to monitor the victims Iranian officials sought to end, according to court documents. Iranian-American journalist and political activist, I'm sorry if I butcher your name, Masih Alinejad, confirmed Friday that she was one of the victims targeted. Alinejad has been the target of several assassination plots, according to the Justice Department. The two defendants allegedly monitored her at a speaking event earlier this year, as well as at her home in New York. In one voice memo between the defendants, Rivera told the others, "This, well, I can't read that word, is hard to catch, bro, and because she hard to catch, there ain't gonna be no simple pull-up. Unless there be the luck of the draw. Unless there's the luck of the draw." Yeah, they sound like very well-adjusted and educated individuals. I don't know what they were doing in jail talking to Iranian assets. So, in other memos, the defendants discussed where Alinejad spent her time in her home and how best to carry out the ending. According to the complaint, Rivera and Lodhol discussed a payment of $100,000, at least they're well paid, with Shakeri to take care of it already, but wanted the payment up front. Well, I wonder why he was getting impatient. Maybe because a year to plot to end someone sounds like a lot? I don't know. I have no idea. I've never actually heard anything about the process or how long it usually takes. But I guess inspired by sort of movies and books, it seems like a long period of time, a year or more to surveil someone. Maybe the order to end her only came more recently. Anyway, IRGC officials, prosecutors say, also asked Shakeri to help out plan a mass shooting targeting Israel tourists in Sri Lanka, prompting US and Sri Lankan authorities to warn travelers about threats of an attack. Yeah, that's sort of normal. Like I said, I absolutely believe the worst of the Iranian regime. The main problem is that I believe almost the worst of the American three-letter agencies. So I know which one I like less, but that doesn't mean that the other side is credible to any extent. Shakeri also said he was tasked with surveilling and ending two individuals described only as Jewish business people living in New York City. Yeah, I still don't understand. When did he talk to the US authorities? Did he talk to them on US soil or on Iranian soil? If he talked to them on Iranian soil and he isn't punished by Iran, then what's going on here? That makes no sense at all. Either he's a US asset or he's a real Iranian operative. And if he's a real Iranian operative and he squealed on Iran, then they would end him. But if he's a US asset and he's on Iranian soil and acting against Iran, then they would act against him too. So neither makes sense. On the other hand, if they talk to him on US soil and then let him leave to Iran, then they were idiots. You know? I don't understand. None of it makes any sense. Anyway, hopefully after Trump actually gets into office, he'll get the protection that he absolutely deserves and needs. He'll be able to clean up house, and we'll, stop having to discuss every other week the latest attempt on his life, because if I'm tired talking about it, think how tired he is of actually having to live through it. All the nerves of constantly being in the crosshairs. I don't know how he manages it. Yeah, thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.